All right, welcome to another broadcast. So glad that you guys are here. Another live broadcast that we have for you. We got a good broadcast for you today. I'm going to be covering quite a bit. Why do my throat sounds like this? Anyway, I'm fine. I don't know. But anyway, so glad to have you guys here. Let's go ahead and get things started with some music, and then we're going to jump right in this evening. You are here with us with this very special news broadcast, as all of them are. Let's go. All right, we're going to give people about a little under a minute. And then, we're just going to jump right in this evening. So glad that you guys are here. Another beautiful day, of course, out here in sunny Arizona. Another beautiful day. It was like right over 70 degrees. Are you guys doing your breathing exercises like I've been asking you to? I mean, don't take that lightly, y'all. Take it, make that a fixed part of your day. I'm serious. It's very important. You do those breathing exercises, just take a few moments, and what it does, it just resets your body, your mind, your attitude, the whole nine. Make sure you make that a part of your day. Today we're going to be getting into talking about, as you see on the thumbnail, these influencers and how they roll. I mean, there's something going on with these influencers that I know I've been noticing. And I'm going to share that with you. In fact, I have a video of someone who's got some know-how on how many of these large influencers on social media, how they roll. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to talk about this whole thing. I know many of you have been hearing about what's going on in Somalia. Has been on everybody's radar lately. I mean, it's been coming up a lot. We got Somalians in Minnesota. And then we got this newly formed, was not really newly formed at all, because we're going to cut through that. Somaliland. We're going to talk about what's going on over there, and it's quite interesting. Quite interesting. We're also going to talk about Nigeria. The United States said that they are rescuing the black Christians in Nigeria. Now, do we actually believe that? Or is there maybe something else afoot? We're going to look at that, but we also going to look at the maps too to see what's really going on. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Let's see what else I got on here. We're going to talk about maybe a few other things, but that Somalia story that's coming out of Minnesota, I'm going to share something with you that I tell you right now, I think most people, they ain't going to talk about this. But we're going to talk about it, okay? Let's give it another 20 seconds and then we'll get started, okay? You're watching Samba Journey's news broadcast for December the 29th, 2025. All right. All right, we are here. We are live. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Don't take that lightly at all. Already got a question. Someone's asking, they said, hey, do you celebrate Kwanzaa? No, I don't. And it's just because I don't, in fact, Christmas. Did I put a tree up this year? No, I didn't, and that's just this year. I don't know. This year, like I said, it was just, we just had a ton of things going on. So the idea of me like putting up lights and all that other stuff, I just didn't have the space for that. But I tell you what, there's a lot of people around where we live. They love it. And I love watching the lights. And they have all kind of decorations and stuff up there. And so it's really cool just to see all of that. People go really to the nth degree with the whole Christmas lights thing and decorations and stuff. It's a beautiful sight. It's just, like I said, for me this year, I just didn't have the time, right, or the space to do it. But if you did, so be it. Same thing for those with Kwanzaa. You know, I've been hearing people talk about, really, and they do this every year. I mean, when been around as long as I have, I mean, people do this every year. Every year they bring up Kwanzaa and they talk about the person that's behind Kwanzaa. He was a wife abuser. He was this and that. And, it's a fake holiday and all that stuff. Let me say this to you. Okay, let me say this to you. Now, like I said, again, that's a holiday I personally do not celebrate. And that's just my choice. That's it. There's nothing deep. I just don't do it. Maybe if it was my parents, if they ingrained that in me or something like that, maybe I would have, but I didn't. So I'm still black though. But anyway, when you hear people going that route, going down that road is, trying to, take a holiday like Kwanzaa and trying to basically make it illegitimate and say that it's a made up holiday. Well, all holidays are made up. I mean, number one, right? And number two, if we're going to really go down the road on talking about the character of people who've come up with holidays and stuff like that, we better, like I always say, if you're going to draw a line, make sure you draw a straight one, because America does celebrate quite a few holidays. In fact, President's Day, I believe isn't that wrapped around Lincoln, I believe, President Lincoln. Someone correct me on that. Well, Lincoln, just a few days ago, and I just saw the post for this, during his tenure, he actually ordered the execution by hanging. It was like a whole group of Native Americans for simply, I think, stealing a buffalo or something like that. All right. So, like I said, when we get to holidays and people want to, try to rate or scale which holidays are the purest versus the ones that are not, we live in a society that's made up of a lot of pieces, some good pieces, some not so good. And, so if you're going to establish a purity test, make sure that you apply it across the board. That's what I would say. So as far as people who want to acknowledge, let's say Kwanzaa, for example, hey, enjoy it, make it great. I hope it works out for you. I hope it's good. Same thing with Christmas. I would say the same exact thing. Christmas has a lot of different things that it's tied to and all of that. And everyone's got an argument for each one of those and all of that. But, it is what it is. Easter, Valentine's Day. I mean, we can go down the whole list, of different holidays. I mean, if we really want to be purist about this, we can look at every day of the week that's named after a Greek or Roman god. Does that mean you worshiping them? You see what I'm saying? You see how far this can go? So, yeah, I just leave things up to the individual. And, I think the highlight for me, period, regardless of what the holiday is when you see when families are coming together and they're enjoying each other's company and ain't no arguing and stuff going on, hey, that's something to celebrate. And I think we can at least embrace that and go with that. I had a really funny incident. I would share it, but I'm not going to go there. But something that happened to me on Christmas, got a text from somebody and they wanted to start something with me, but I had to be, straight up. I said, I don't think you know who I am. You may think you know, but I don't think your America Online email address has been updated, because you certainly missed a whole lot of updates from me. Okay, so put away those AOL disc. Okay, and we do have high-speed internet. We don't do dial-up anymore. Okay. Okay, we don't do dial up anymore. Okay, we got high speed internet. We don't have to hear. So you're gonna have to get some updates here, and if I have to be the one to update you, I will do that. But yeah, I was like, no, not today, or not any other day. You ain't gonna do that. So I'll just leave it at that. One day that may be a story I'll share, but I'm not gonna share it today. But anyway, there you go. So anyway, let's jump right into it, okay? I know I usually start off with the whole Samba tree stuff and all that, but I'll talk about that in a moment, okay? But I do want to talk, so let's get into this. I've been, I don't know if any of you have, I'm sure some of you have. I've been closely, I've been following the whole, with Candace Owens and her coverage of this whole thing with Turning Point and Charlie Kirk and all of that. I have been really following it just as an observer, in the sense of really taking note on how tides are changing in terms of how people are changing, the amount of tweets that are coming out that seem like they're very coordinated. The focus is being changed. And I'm not talking about from Candace. I'm talking about the people who are really saying how crazy she is and you shouldn't listen to her and all this other stuff. And it's so funny because I'm watching these people and I'm like, okay, if someone is crazy, well, let me ask you, if you determine that someone is crazy, why would you be faithful in watching and listening to everything this crazy person had to say? Why would you waste the time? I certainly wouldn't. There's plenty of people that I come across on social media and I'm like, I just don't, I don't want to listen to them. And I don't, because they don't matter in my life at all. They really don't. When it comes to TikTok, for example, I've been really, really trying hard to adapt to TikTok and adjust to it. But man, it's just too much going on all at the same time. I'm like, man, I just can't. I'm trying to keep up with it. I just can't. It's just too much. And, I could also say TikTok is not TikTok. X is kind of the same way, but TikTok, man, it's almost like it'll be a grand opening, grand closing, debtor's prison, all in the same day. I'm serious. And I'm like, man, I just can't keep up with some of this stuff. You know what I mean? And, I'm someone that really pride myself in keeping up with, man, someone got a lot of bass going on in their car. So I have been noticing like this whole campaign where they're like going after her and saying how she's crazy, crazy, crazy. And I started noticing, I was like, this is interesting because they're all literally saying the same thing. And it's like almost all at the same time. And I just thought that was quite interesting. So I came across this guy who's more well-versed in this area than I am. And he noticed it too. And he did a little bit more digging into it. And so I'm going to go ahead and play for you. He actually has two clips. So I'll go ahead and play this first clip for you. And let's take a listen to what he's saying and, about this. And then we'll just go from there. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look and listen to what he has to say on this. Very interesting stuff.
So I want to explain how the pay-to-play game works here in the influencer world, especially in the digital age. And they have these things which are called clipping sites. So a clipping site will basically, and I'm going to give you the rundown because I kind of made a slide to actually break it down. But these sites out there, some are anybody can join, and then some are invite only. So this is how the PACs use, and they basically hide behind these sites, and they use these sites to directly pay influencers to do work on behalf of a political opponent without actually having to report it. So this is how they're like adding that middleman in the barrier, and why it's so hard to determine who's paying who and how they're getting paid. So let me explain this to you. This little slide, right? So let's just say they have a bounty, and let's just say I want to put out I want to put a $50,000 bounty out, and I'm willing to pay $10 per 100,000 views. Now you don't have to get 100,000 views to earn $10. You could get 10,000 views and you could earn $1, right? Because all the accounts are different, and you want as many accounts as humanly possible, basically competing to earn their share of the 50,000. So along with the bounty, so the bounty, this is the actual job itself, will have requirements. So the requirements for this specific job that I just made up would be a 39 to 90 second video attacking Candace Owens. The keywords that you need to put in the actual title of the post: Candace Owens lied about Erica Kirk. Now I could go on and say Candace Owens is crazy and she lied about Erica Kirk. I don't have to put keyword word for word, but those specific keywords have to be used for my tweet to actually be eligible to earn a percentage of this bounty, right? And then the platforms that I need to post it on can be X, IG, TikTok, YouTube. Now, if I post the same video and I post it on X and IG, I'm gonna get 2 links, right? So each one of those videos is gonna be earning its portion. It's not combined. It'll be on each. So if you post to IG, TikTok, YouTube, and on each platform you get 1 million views, or let's just say each platform you get 100,000 views, then you'd earn $40, $10 per 100,000 views, okay? And then, so what does that get? Like, why are people incentivized to do that? So let me just break this down. If you put up $50,000 bounty and you're paying $10, right, per 100,000 views, you could 10 divided by 50,000 is 5,000. 5,000 times 100,000 gives you 500 million views total. Now, if nobody earns that, that bounty will stay open. So sometimes you'll see like a job, it'll say bounty slash, 25,000 remaining or 4,000 remaining or whatever the amount of remaining money is. And the job, I didn't put the date up there, but let's just say that was posted a month ago. That might be an old job, but something might start trending or going viral. Like Candace might put out a new video and you go back in there like, oh shit, nobody's actually competing for that. Oh, I'm going to, take a stab at it and I'm going to try to earn my percentage of that bounty. And so what it looks like is basically you have your percentage counter. So it might be like every, like the minimum might be 1,000 views. So every 1,000 views you earn 10 cents or whatever the equation is, right? And then you won't see it, but there's just like everybody, like this 100K views, 20 million views get you $2,000. And then you just basically will have a running total on that bounty. So that's why, if you're doing this, you probably if there's only like $1,000 remaining of that bounty, you might not want to create a video because if your video gets 1 million views, you're only going to earn, so like you put out a video, gets 10 million views and there's only $1,000 left in that bounty, you're only going to get paid for the first, million views because once that caps out, you're done. There's no additional payouts after the bounty ends. So it's first come, first serve. And that's how these sites work. And I made a video that actually, so if you just search on Grok and you say, Grok, what are the best clipping sites for influencers? It'll pull up a list like the top 5 or 10. And there's not a ton of them out there, but those are just the public ones that we know about. That doesn't include the ones that like if I was APAC, I would almost guarantee has their own version of this that's invite only, right? So when Israel wants to make something trend, you just put up a bounty, and when you put up the bounty, if you're logged into your app or you have the app on your phone or you're using any one of these sophisticated platforms, it most likely sends you a text message. Or you submit your number because it's such a small group of people, and all of a sudden 100 people get a text message that says, boop, new bounty position, new bounty, click the link to see. New $50,000 bounty up, and they probably click the link and it shoots them right over to the website and they're like, oh, here's the job, here's the description. That's how it's so timed out, right? That's why when you see people, I don't want to use any names because I don't want to get any lawsuits, but the White House water boys, on how one person will tweet and then all of them are tweeting almost the exact same thing, similar keywords, similar topics, using similar photos, right? And we could take it a step further, right? Let's go back over here. All right. Requirements could be you have to use this photo, right? So in the video, they want you to use this photo. Or it could just be a word tweet. It could be word or video. It could be anything, right? The requirements can be anything, and they could provide you any type of requirements they want. So you got to use this video. You got to use these keywords. It has to be this length. Anything that you got, this could be you have to use this as a cover photo, whatever the case may be. This is how the game's played, guys. So just hopefully you guys are up to date. My name is Ryan Mehta. Motherfuckers, we out. Peace.
Okay, so that's one. And then I'm going to show you this other one here that he did too that goes in even more detail. But as you can see, this is not just, we're not talking Google ads here. Okay, we're not talking Google ads here. This actually is a lot deeper than that. And this is something I know I have seen play out quite a bit. So let me go ahead and get that on the screen here. And this will be part 2. So let me go ahead and play that for you.
For those of you that are just waking up, it's really important to understand how the fake new media, right? You are the new media. We're MAGA. We're the new MAGA media. how all of these influencers are all getting paid via these different platforms that pay content creators and put up bounties for specific keywords or topics. So for example, if you talk about the Trump assassination or you talk about Charlie Kirk's shooter being trans, and you all put out the same keywords in your title, and then once you create that post, you add your link to these platforms, and then you get paid a percentage of that bounty. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I just want to go over to Grok, and I said, what websites pay influencers for clipping and posting content? Platforms that pay influencers for clipping and posting content are, and it says Whoop Content, Bix, Starlit Clips, and Clips. And now there's probably a ton of others, but so I set up and I went and got into Starlit Clips. So what happens when you go over to Starlit Clips? So check this out. So this is in their Discord. So they basically post here and they show you, okay, if you post on TikTok, we're paying $30 for 100,000 views. We're paying for Reels on Instagram, I believe $30 for 100,000 views. Shorts, we're paying $30 for 100,000 views. And Twitter and X, we're paying $15 per 100,000 views. Okay, now it's funded or clip for Vardan. So here's the Vardan. Post Vardan's clips everywhere. So basically this guy creates a video, and if you take his video and you cut clips from his video, his podcast, or whatever the case may be, and then you submit your links, every time your link gets 100,000 views, there's a total bounty. And I don't know where the bounty is. We'll have to look into it a little bit. But basically, if there was like, say this would be like a $5,000 bounty. So they're gonna pay up to $5,000 for the first person that actually submits and gets X amount of views for every 100,000. So if you got a video that got like, let's say 50 million views, and you use one of his clips and you submitted it, you might be able to drain that entire bounty before anybody else even gets their clip submitted. And there's tons of these different websites out there. Like I said, I've showed you just a few. Now another one is a different style, which is Bix. So you go into Bix and you add a service. Like I'm willing to create content on politics for whatever. And then brands or PACs could actually come over here and go, boom, we want to automatically choose your service. So you say, boom, here's $1,000 to make a tweet on whatever, right? So you could put up a service is I post tweets on X, for $100 a tweet, and they could go, boom, they could send you the information, they would pay you for the gig, they would tell you what to post it, and you would post it, and once you post it, you submit the link, and then these platforms act like an aggregator, or these websites act like an escrow account, right? Like so when you're doing a real estate deal and you're closing on your house and it's transferring the deed from one person's name to the X, your money basically goes in escrow. So it's in limbo there. So neither party controls it. The banks actually control it. And when you sign the documents or you pay the loan, then it transfers ownership, right? So this is the same thing. There's a bounty, there's a reward that's put up, and then that reward is already in a third party. So once you submit your link, and if your link meets all the criteria, keywords, blah, 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 as soon as that gets 100,000 views, you're instantly getting paid. Boom, 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 boom. And that's how you see all the fake MAGA media, all using the same exact talking points, saying the same exact script. It's not because they're getting views and they're getting paid on X for their views, guys. Come on. Are you really going to kill your timeline and put out some stupid shit that you don't even care to report on just to put it out for fun because you want to help the Trump administration? You're an independent journalist. Of course you're not. You're only going to report on things if you think they're valuable or you're getting paid for it. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's show you guys how much money and how easy it is to clean up on shit like this and how much these dudes actually make. So it's $30,000, or it's $30 for 100,000 views. Okay, let's go here. Charlie Kirk, assassinated by a leftist trans activist. This is Benny Johnson. 2.5 million views. So 2.5 million divided by 100,000 is 25. 25 times 30 is what? $750 just for one post. So if somebody put up a bounty for anybody that was talking about the activist being a trans shooter, okay, and you're getting paid roughly $30 for 100,000 views, you're literally going to make $750. Benny Johnson off that one post would have. Now, I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying that was one. I'm just giving you an example of how much money these influencers could be making if there's bounties on shit like this. And some of the times when we see all of a sudden the MAGA media, all of them echoing the exact same talking points, word for word. How many times have you seen the screenshots of MAGA? And there's like 20 different people that are all saying literally almost the exact same thing identically.
Same thing.
Like word for word. It's almost like it's scripted, right? Are we really buying that this trans shooter bullshit? Why isn't Benny Johnson? Why isn't Tim Pool? Why aren't any of these people talking about the fact that most likely this was a professional hit job carried out by Israel? Everybody's silent on it except for Candace Owens and Ian Carroll in the.
Okay, so I'll stop it there. So you get it right there because, I knew, that I said these people are getting paid, and it's a lot easy for a lot of people to sit back, because that's the thing that a lot of people will say is if someone is saying something that you don't agree with, and they happen to have a significant following, most people will say, yeah, you just getting paid. It's easy to say that, right? But, but this is actually getting us a little bit closer to understanding that, how some of these influencers are in fact getting paid. There was an influencer that I mentioned, it was like a few weeks ago that I came across. I talked about him. And it was just really puzzling to me to see this dude so locked in on Candace Owens. I mean, he was every video. And I wasn't even following this guy. I'm literally not even following this guy. But you know how it is on YouTube. Once you like watch, maybe just preview one or two of their videos, then the algorithm just assumes, oh, you must be really interested in this person. It's like, no. I just watched a half, quarter of the video. That was it. And then you literally have to go in and say, stop recommending this video or stop recommending this channel. But this dude stayed and still is locked in on Candace. Like, it was like early one morning, right? I got up doing my thing and I said, I got on YouTube. And it was like early, and he had like a whole panel of people like, okay, let's talk about the latest video. And like I said, let's just dial it down for a moment. Let's just reel back for a second. Remember what I said earlier? Most human beings, normally, if you come across somebody that you just don't like, or that you find to be very annoying, or you just disagree with them or whatever, you're not naturally are going to keep on watching them and keep listening. Most normal people don't, unless your life is really that bored. Like I was, a while back, I talked about like some of the shows like the Jerry Springer show or something, for example. I thought that was a total trashy show back then. So guess what? I never watched it. Now you'll hear some people say, well, I watched it because, I'm just a little nosy like that. Well, maybe you got some people like that, but most people aren't. I mean, they're not going to tune into something that is not appealing to them. But when I was listening to a lot of these influencers, and they were literally, and they're doing it now, it's all like clockwork. It's like they all are saying the same exact thing with the same messaging and all of that. And so the only conclusion we can come to is they got to be driven by money. It's got to be money to do that. Because I refuse to believe that people are that bored in their lives like that, where the only thing you can talk about is someone that you despise and hate all the time. I don't even see how that's even possible. Maybe I'm abnormal. Maybe I woke up the other day and I'm in a different world and I'm just now catching up and realizing that. I don't know. You tell me what you think, but I'm just saying most people generally that I know generally don't do that. You just leave people alone and let them crash and burn on their own. You know what I'm saying? I got plenty of people in my life that I'm like, I don't care. And just leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people are locked in on this. And someone mentioned Israel. And like he said, I am very confident that, Israel is doing this. In fact, Israel has already come out and said that they're going to be doing this. They set aside multi hundreds of millions of dollars for this very purpose, to influence influencers on social media, because their PR right now in this generation, what they call Generation Z, is really not good at all. This generation right now, they're not digging Israel like they think, like all the other generations did. They're asking questions and they're taking a stance and saying, no, we ain't down with Israel. We don't like what you're doing. And so now they're finding the money somewhere. Despite the fact that, you remember the article we shared the other day where they said that 1 out of 3 Holocaust survivors are in poverty? Did you remember I showed you that? So you can't help your own Holocaust survivors, but you can find multi-millions of dollars to help get more likes on social media. Can we make any sense of that? Can we make literally any sense of that at all? But that's what's happening right now. That's literally what's going on right now. And, but yeah, just something to think about, something to pay attention to when you see this kind of stuff here. Like I'll tell you, for example, for me, this channel that you're on now, for years, I wasn't monetized until a couple of years ago. I decided, hey, I'll just go and do this monetization thing. Now I have no control over which advertisers specifically that can, that's going to show up. I have no control over that. I mean, unless it was like, I'm trying to go through, because when you first get into it, they kind of give you opportunity, like what would you like to see and what you wouldn't like to see or whatever. But as far as like specific advertisers, no, I don't have any control over that. Now, if my channel ever got to some really, really big thing. And I'm not just dealing with YouTube advertisers, but individual advertisers or businesses coming to me and saying, hey, listen, we like to advertise on you. Now that's something different. I do have control over that, but I don't have any control at all over the ads. And if some of the companies were like, hey, listen, we don't want to advertise on that channel anymore, YouTube will just find someone else to fill in the slot. So, but I'm not driven necessarily by the particular advertisers, because the way it's set up, YouTube will just find someone else to fill in that slot. You know what I mean? And as long as you ain't up here talking about kill everybody and, all of that, they're going to always find someone to fill in that slot. So that's kind of how it works with YouTube monetization. But anyway, let's move on here. Let's get into, I want to talk about the Somalians. We're going to get into that there. I think I'm going to start with what's going on. Let's see. I'll start off in Somaliland. I'll start off there. And then we'll bring it back to the Somalians here in the United States. Okay, we'll do it that way. Okay, but first, before we continue, I just want to remind you again that Sabatree is having we're winding it down. We got, 2 more days? And the biggest sale that we have had in the entire year is about to shut down. It's over. And there are products, like I said again, that we are going to sunset for the time being while we make room for the new products that we're going to be offering. Okay. So, this is the time, if you've been kind of, trying to figure out, contemplate or whatever, if this is the time to load up, stock up and all of that, because after the first of the year, we're going to start changing inventory and all of that. And this is a great time for you to jump on it right now. Again, the website is Sabatree.com. And I'm just show it to you very quickly there. And as you can see, we got our large stone collection that is slowly going away. People are buying these up, and these are handmade. We work with someone, person that knows how to do that kind of thing, and handmade jewelry. You can check it out right there. And then on top of the 30%, up to 30% on promo that we have going on, we have these special products that we came out with, the Fresh Bamboo Sea Moss Body Oil, and then also this purifying facial cleanser that's also sea moss based. We have that as well. And then, of course, I told you we've been getting emails of people verifying what I've been saying about this 8-herb multivitamin and mineral brew. Bruh, let me tell you something. That is the bomb. I was shocked when I tasted it, because I was like, okay, teas after a while start all tasting the same, right? But this one right here, if you like me growing up, I always love red juice. I always love red juice. It could have been anything. It could have been anything. As long as the juice was red and it was cold, I was okay with it. And some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You remember Hawaiian Punch? Now, they got all these other variant flavors of Hawaiian Punch, but the OGs in the house, come on, you know what I'm talking about. Hawaiian Punch didn't come in no bottle. It came in a can. You had to use it. It came in a can. And then you had to get the can opener, open it whole one side, and then you open up the other side so that it can just flow out of that can. And Hawaiian Punch, bruh, it was good. It was good. I oftentimes wonder, did they serve that at the Last Supper? But anyway, this ain't Hawaiian Punch. This is all 100% natural. And it has, as it says in the title, 8 herbs in it. And boy, oh boy, is it good for your body. That's what we're all about here at Sabatree. Make sure you check that out. Then we got a bunch of other things there as well. Everything from teas, of course. We got things for your body. We got a bunch of things on that. We got powders. We got things for dental, natural things regarding that. And of course, I told you about the copper and all of that. And then don't forget Sabatree Publishing, Saba University. Saba University. We also teach courses as well. So we got a bunch of courses here that you can all check out here. Take some time, go over to sabatree.com. Make sure you check that out, okay? All right, so got that covered for you. Remember, that sale's going to be over in the next day and a half. So make sure you jump on that, okay? What was I going to say? That's Sabatree. Other thing I want to mention too is our digital library. Now, this is aside from Sabatree. I'll just pull that up for you very quickly. If you haven't jumped on it, you better jump on this as well. This is not going anywhere though. I don't have any plans on pulling this. Let me see, go over here right quick here. And then we're going to jump back into the news. So just continue to hang in there with me. We're going to jump back in the news here. Right here, let me just pull this up here. There you go. And I remember I used to get so tired when I would watch certain people on YouTube and they will say, hey, y'all, man, let me tell you something, man. They've been trying to hide this information from us, so I got a give, send, go or whatever it is. And I'm raising up money right now so I can buy this book. It's $5,000. And, because you get this book, man, it's going to have all the secrets about who we really are and all this other stuff, right? And then, and then they get the book and then they'll do a video and then they only show you 3 sentences. And I'm like sitting up here, hold on, you don't pay 5 G's, 3 G's for this book. And you only gonna share a sentence? Nah, especially when people got together, pulled their resources together so that you can have a copy of the book. You think that's right? No, I always thought, I said, no, they ain't right at all. I think if people chipped in to get it, then the people who chipped in to get it should have access to it. I think that's only fair, so that whatever it is that, like, I could share a book right now. I could share an excerpt for you right now. But at the end of the day, what I always tell you, get the book so you can have the full context, because maybe I'm steering you wrong. Maybe I'm taking it out of context. So we always try to make that stuff available to people. So I may share for brevity's sake an excerpt, but I will always do my best to say, okay, but this is what it says on the page before and all of that, right? So anyway, so we got a solution for that. So over the years, I told you, I am very much like a bookworm. I love collecting books, and I have been, in particularly digital books. I don't care. I finally made it into my garage. And I found my box of books, so I got a stack over there. I'm still trying to sort through and figure out what I'm gonna do with those and all that, because those are books that I got over here that some of them, they don't even print them anymore. And so fortunately, I found over the years, these are books that I have come across that in my studies and research for the stuff that I provide for you here on this channel, I have saved that. I even bought a special drive to put all of this stuff on. And so I have been sharing it on a small scale, but I said, you know what? Let's open it up. Let's make sure everyone can have access to this. And it goes everything from Black history, rare books. I found just a bunch of books today on just more Black history books written in the 1700s and the 1800s and stuff like that. I mean, these are books, clearly they're not printing anymore. But I'm taking those as I'm finding these things. I am uploading it to the server so that, or not server, whatever you want to call it, so that people can have access to it and you can download it and get what you need to get on that. Okay, so we got that for you. Okay, and then I have some other things in there as well. Yeah, you can use that. Then I have some other things in there as well. A lot of other books covering and the other section I have that's a major one is Jewish history. Why is that important? Because again, Jews have played a very close role in Black history. In fact, they've always been kind of a shadow when it comes to our culture, our practices, the whole nine. Jews have always been very close to that. But when it came to this whole thing about slavery, and then they want to pull back and say we had very little involvement with that, that fired me up. And I said, nah, we got the records. We got your records. And so I've been able to collect numbers. I got, off the top of my head, I would say just digital books, I would say over 150 books of their books, rare books. Some of them, like I said, again, they're not even printing anymore. And so anyway, then I got some other books too about different aspects of Black culture and the what you call the medical industry and how that crosses with Black history and culture and what they did and to manipulate things and all that. It's all kind of books I have on there. So $9.99. That's a one time. That's not a monthly or anything like that. And if you follow the instructions here, you can get access to it almost immediately. You know, I get the notification if I'm not doing anything and I get that notification, I'll jump on it immediately. Make sure you're checking your emails, your boxes and everything, because I'm sending them out. Everyone that has enlisted in that, I have sent it out the same day. So unless you did it like 3 a.m. when I'm asleep, but usually within 24 hours, you're getting something sent from me. If you're not getting it, email me back. Email me, connect@journeymanandwoman.com, connect@journeymanandwoman.com, and I'll make sure to get it to you immediately, okay? Because I don't play with that. I don't play with folks' money like that. I try to get stuff out ASAP. So anyway, so that's it. What was I going to say? And just stress again the importance of why this is so important for us to have our own books, because ChatGPT, all these LLMs, they are only giving you preferred results. They're not giving you actual factual, the whole plate. They're just giving you just a tiny slither of the facts. But as Black folks, it is imperative for us to make sure we get the whole story. So I'm doing my part to make sure we can capture the whole story. And so this is why we have this digital library. So make sure if you got children, you homeschool or whatever, this will be an invaluable thing for them. Okay. And like I said, I'm doing my utmost to add things to it on a regular basis. So I got a few documentaries on there right now. I'll be putting, as I come across other media information, I'll be putting those things up as well. All right. So we're going to keep on doing that. So I just wanted to share that with you. And let's get back into the news. Thank you again for joining us. Appreciate it. All right. So let's move on to what's going on in Somaliland. Okay. So I was looking into this, and let me just tell you, it's, over here in the United States, when it comes to factions of different groups or whatever, it's a lot clear cut. You know what I'm saying? You got, the Black people versus this group, or such and such group against this group, and all of that. Right. So it's pretty cut and dry. But when you start getting into Africa, it's this tribe versus that tribe, but they're tied to this tribe and this like land rights and all this other stuff that goes on. It's a whole lot. So I am, for one, am not going to give you all the nitty gritty details on this. Okay. So, cause I am still learning myself, but I can give you kind of an overview so you can kind of understand what's going on here. And that's what we're going to do. So let me pull up this map here first. That's what I was doing when we was watching that video, just to show you what they're talking about here. Let me see maps. Here we go. All right. So here is a map right here. Let's go right. Let's zoom in right here. All right. So here we go. So all of this right here is Somalia. Hold on. There we go. All right. You see this right here? Okay. Y'all don't see my, okay. So all of this right here to there is Somalia, going down into there as well. All right. Now remember, all of these borders were drawn by Somalians. Nope, they were drawn by Europeans. Okay. You should have known that. Anyway, so a second here. All right, there you go. All right, here we go. All right, so it's not just over here, but it's also a piece over here as well. It's a piece over here as well. Now, I think they call this the Aden Strait. I'm not sure. That's what I was trying to find. But this body of water right here is a very important piece. I'm just giving you the the strategy, why people are so interested in declaring this, this little slice of Somalia and calling it Somaliland, which has a long history. It didn't just start the other day. It's Somaliland has been around for a long time. Basically, Somalia is like split up into different groups, like different tribes, right? Somaliland is made up of, I think they call it the Isaacs. Don't think of the Bible, because it's not it's the tribe of Isaacs or something like that. And then I have an article somewhere where I can share it with you. And but Somaliland, that it makes up a lot of them. Okay, so the reason why this region is so important is because of the fact, if you take a look here, you got the Arabian Sea, then they go through here, and then you go through here, and then you can reach like Israel and all of that, or Egypt and all of that right here. That's how they get a lot of their, shipments and stuff like that. So it's very important to a lot of people in this region. Now, the problem is that in this same area right here, it's been a lot of like pirate stuff going on. And so when these ships are coming through, they're getting hijacked, they're getting shot at, the whole nine. And so Israel just recently stepped in and said, hey, we're going to step in and we're going to declare this little slice of Israel, or not Israel. We're going to declare this little slice of Somalia, this Somaliland place, and we're going to declare that as they're an independent state. And someone said something funny. They said that's like Narnia declaring Asgard as an independent state. I mean, or Atlantis or something like that. It's like nobody, outside of Israel, nobody was really caring to do all of that. But they're trumpeting this like it's legitimate, and it really isn't. But anyway, but the United States, they're behind this and all that. So let me pull up this. Now that I showed you the map so you can kind of get a look at it. Let me see if I have this article here and I can share it with you in more detail on what's going on over here. Just give me a moment. I had it here. Just give me a moment here. Almost benefit. Let's see. And of course, I don't have it. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, I had it up here. Okay, hold on. I'll just do this. I literally had it bookmarked and everything. Let's see some. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just go here. I had an article separated that just kind of went through it. But anyway, I'll just read it for you here. Okay, so let's just go through it right quick here. Okay. Right there. Not that. Here. Go. There we go. All right, so we're just gonna go here. All right, Egypt independent. Pressure in Egypt. African affairs expert said that Israel's recognition of Somaliland as an independent state sets a dangerous precedent. He interpreted the recognition as an attempt at pressuring Egypt through neighboring countries and softening its stance on Gaza. And then they mentioned his name is Essawi. This is the basically the guy they're going to for this article, explained that the dangers lies in the fact that this region largely controls the entrance to the Red Sea, like I just showed you on the map, and therefore Israel considers it a means of exerting pressure on Egypt as part of what is called a silent diplomatic war between Egypt and Israel over the Gaza Strip. He noted that Somaliland is part of Somalia, a country of vital importance to Egypt, primarily due to its geographical location and because it is an Arab state with which Egypt has a cooperation agreement. SOA explained that Israel also wants to support Ethiopia in its efforts to gain recognition for Somaliland as an independent state in exchange for a seaport and military base in this strategically important region on the Indian Ocean and the entrance to the Red Sea. Like I said, I just showed you that. I'm not going to read the rest of it here, but that just kind of gives you a little more context here. And then let me now go to my other source here. That would be here. Let's see. Give me just a moment. Okay. All right. I think I got it. I'm getting close here. All right. Let's see. Somaliland. Of course, I can't find the map. Anyway, so it was going to show you the map that I had. It's, hold on. Hold on, y'all. Just almost got it. Okay. All right. All right. I think I got something here. Okay. Whew, I can't stand when this happens. Okay, here we go. So I showed you the map earlier, and then let me show you this right here. Okay, so here we go. All right, so this is all of this is Somalia. All of this is Somalia here, right? And like I told you, it's all divided by like different tribes. You see how divided it is? So it's very divided, as you can see here. And then this little piece right here, this is Somaliland, what you see in yellow. So they're saying that they want to split up and want to become their own independent state. Okay, so that's basically, I wanted to give you, a visual of what that looked like here. All right, so Somaliland, let's talk about that. Somaliland basically was a slice. It was a tribe that it was made up of the main tribe. I believe they were like the Isaacs or something like that. So the Isaac tribe or something like that. Again, don't confuse that with anything in the Bible. It has nothing to do with the Bible. If anything, it has a lot to do with Islam. This is a largely Muslim area, just like most of Somalia as well. And they in the past, they worked closely with Britain because, the British came down, they colonized the area and all of that. They also work closely with Ethiopia as well. Depending on who you talk to, they talk about how this group, they kind of were seen locally as kind of working hand in hand with the colonizers, right? That's kind of what they're saying. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll see that they were always kind of split. You got some who were kind of team, Britain or whatever. But a lot of them, we're Muslims and that's how we're going to be. That's how we always going to be, that kind of thing. Anyway, so fast forward, there's been a lot of friction between the people who live in Somaliland and those other groups that I just showed you, in those different divisions. And so because of that, they're kind of seen as like the outsiders within their own borders. So nobody's really paying them any attention except Israel. So Israel said, hey, we hear your cry. So we would like to intervene and help you out. So we're going to use our whatever weight, and we're going to say we recognize you as your own independent state. So it's funny when you go online and you see all of these videos of people running down the street waving Israeli flags, and you want to talk about a psyop. I said, what's so funny to me about all this? How many people run around with the flags of other nations? These people will be, and I'm not saying all of them are, but you got some countries, the people will be dirt poor. And then somehow you got the flag of Israel. How did that even come? But that's what you see, and that's what they're like pushing. But you also see a lot of the young people as well that are saying, man, blank Israel. We ain't down with Israel because we see exactly what you're doing. Now, let me explain even more what's going on. Now, let me see if I can find that. Someone that's very close to Trump was recently on a live here on X. And let me see. Hopefully I can find it, y'all. And basically what he was saying was that, oh, yeah, we actually been in talks with the leadership in Somaliland. And one of the things that we think is going to be happening in the very near future is, oh, here it is right here. Here it is. I found it. And I'll just let him explain it. The guy name is Dr. Dan Diker. All right. I want you to listen to him. And like I say, he supposedly has very close ties to, to President Trump and all that. But he was recently on a live. Take a listen to this here, what their plans are.
As you analyze it, what did you think was the main reason for Israel to break with this usual line of the international community and to be the first to do so?
Well, I think there are two. Thanks for the question. I think it's a very important question. I think there are two major components here to Israel's strategic thinking. Number one is the importance of securitizing or securing, if you will, the Red Sea, and particularly leading up to the canal and the southern approach ultimately to Egypt and Gaza. Gaza is a very important issue today because the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, as the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, is making a lot of trouble for a lot of people. I do know that our friends in Somaliland made a very generous offer privately and in the last, I would say in the last months, I think it even reached the desk of the President of the United States, of their willingness to absorb or to create communities for hundreds of thousands, even beyond 1 million, up to 1.5 million Gazans who want to rebuild their lives in a safe place, just like Somaliland. Somaliland, in our understanding, is really the only country that's stepped up to the plate to absorb Gazans and help them rebuild prosperous and honorable lives.
There you go. There it is. There it is. Now, I've looked this up, and of course, publicly, they're still somewhat denying this, the Trump administration. But this guy, he's in the know, and he's saying that, yeah, we've been having these private conversations, and really the plan is that we're gonna try to get these people in Gaza and start pushing them down to Somaliland, using Somaliland as the dumping ground for Palestinian people. And I sat up there, when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I said, when will Africa actually, as a continent, really get it? I mean, really? I mean, when will Africa as a continent get it? Because I know this is Somaliland, but this is just one chapter out of many. I mean, for real. Let me see if I have that. Do I have those images? Let me see if I have these images here. Let me just share this with you here. I actually posted this on our community page, but I do want to share this with you here. And then we're going to get to the Somalians here in the United States. Let me see. That's what YouTube here. I'll go to my channel here. I'll just pull this up for you. And let's go on a post. All right, here we go. All right, I'll just pull this up here on the screen so we can take a look at it together. That's not it. There it is. Okay. All right, so let me just share this with you real quick here. All right, so this is Africa. This is all the resources of Africa here. So when we think of Africa, a lot of people, over here, when we think of Africa, we see, the people, the culture, the food, and all of this stuff. And, you think about all of that, right? Which normal human beings, that's how we think, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to these powers that shouldn't be, when they look at Africa, this is how they see Africa. And, someone went in and actually created this map to show you what all the popular resources of every African country. So in Nigeria, which we're going to touch on real briefly in a moment here, it's gasoline. I guess they take the oil and process it, and they process it and make the gasoline out of it. When you get to Ethiopia, when you get to it's hydropower. When you get to Somalia, it's oil, so forth and so on. So these countries, these external countries outside of Africa, when they're looking at Africa, this is how they see it. This is how they see the people. They don't see the people. That's how they see the people. They don't. What they see are a bunch of resources. And then I'm gonna show you this too as well. This is the other map I thought was really interesting. This, if you take a look at this, and you should have this on you should be able to see. Okay, cool. The borders themselves, they were all created by these Europeans, right? And likewise, in just about all of these cases, the areas themselves, these countries themselves, were named by white people. White people basically found some things that was in, like in Nigeria, for example, we hear about the white woman that was like, oh, they have the Nigerian river, so we're going to call it Nigeria, that kind of thing. Never mind the fact that Nigeria is home to like over 100 different cultures from all different parts of Africa and all of that. Never mind that. But take a look at these names here. This is just some of them. Now, everybody will zoom in. See, the land of the Moors. Okay, cool. I'm just going to go the religious route. Like people just, the land of the Moors, or the land of God. Morocco is the land of God. That's what it means. Now, some of these names may not be accurate. So, don't be blasting me in the comments saying that's not what it's called, but most of them, just about all of them are really. Anyway, you got hippo. Mali means hippo. The land of honest men. Ivory Coast. That's kind of self-explanatory. Burnt people. Now, what African nation on their own, group of Africans would call themselves, if they already dark-skinned, why would they call themselves burnt people? Why would they call themselves that? If you already black, why would you call yourself burnt people? And Cameroon, shrimp. Land of the burnt faced. Land of the milking nomads. Land of the blacks. Many of you have heard of that. Then you go up north here. Now, this is not in Africa now. You see how this is all changes when you get up here. You got white land. You got God's gift. Goddess of wisdom. Jubilee. Fortified place. Two lions. Then you get down here, and then it's like land of a lake and black coast. Houses of stone. By the water. Land of the Niger River, so forth and so on. You see where I'm going with this? So they unfortunately set in motion something that unfortunately many people on the great continent of Africa are still dealing with to this day. And it has bled over into, during the, diaspora and stuff like that. We're still fighting and trying to figure out who we are and our identification and all of that kind of stuff. So, you can't get so mad at it. But my point is that like what's going on over in Somalia right now, it's more of a continuation of that. These people have been, this is a Muslim country, a Muslim area. Somalia is a Muslim country. But yet Israel was able to weave its way in and take control over a slice of it. And now they're saying, okay, now you got the privilege of being part of us, quote unquote. Now, as we're wiping out these people in Gaza, we're just going to dump the remains in your land. And they're like, oh, hallelujah. Not all of them, though, because there are many of them that are saying, no, hell no. you ain't gonna do that. So it ain't 100% yet, but that's the direction they're going. So I just wanted to spend some time on that because I know that's coming up a lot. And it was just like, man, this is really crazy. It really is. Okay, let's move fast here because I spent too much time on that. But let me see what I have here. Let's see, because now we're going to talk about the Somalians here. And I got all my stuff in order on that. So let me just give me just a moment here. And I will explain that in a moment. Which way is be a faster way I can thumb through this. Oh, I do. I know where I put it. Okay, here we go. I know where I put it. Okay, so basically, let's just say this. So back in, I think it was in the early 2000s, there was a move to start pushing a lot of these Muslims, or rather a lot of these people from these mostly Muslim countries into the United States, right? Into places like the United States, but not just exclusively the United States. We've already talked about it in places all throughout Europe and other countries as well. They have been what the West does, which it always does. They'll start these wars. They'll pick one side over the other. They'll start these crazy rebellions and stuff within these home countries, making it so unstable that the people are like, oh, we got to go somewhere. And then who steps up and says, okay, well, we got a place that you can go. It's Israel. The Jews do this stuff. All right. And so early 2000s, I'll just go through this here. What happened here in the case of these Somalians here in the United States. And this is going to lead up to this whole situation that's going on right now with them, the fraud and stuff like that. We're going to get into that in a moment. Okay. But anyway, what basically happened is one of the leading organizations that was pushing these Somalians to come here to the United States was in fact Jewish organizations. All right. And so the Jewish organization, it's called HIAS. And I'm trying to see what that's still for. It's HIAS. Where are you? Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. That's what it was called. Hebrew Immigrants Aid Society. And so it wasn't just them. They also were working with other Jewish organizations like the Jewish Family and Children's Services and Jewish Family Services. Both of these, one is in St. Paul, the other is in Minnesota. And they Minneapolis. One is in St. Paul, the other is in Minneapolis. They were pushing by the tens of thousands of Somalians to come there. Why? It's just because I don't know. I'm sure there was some specific reasons for that, but it was these Jewish organizations that were leading the charge and getting these Muslims into these areas, just like they're doing right now. I'm in the state of Arizona. If you go to our southern border, just like if you go to the southern border in Texas and also the southern border in California, you're going to find these same Jewish organizations that are leading the way and getting these people into these countries. Now, I just happened to come across another very interesting video here. I was just reminded of, I'm glad I remembered. Let me play this video for you because, again, as I told you, they will always tell the truth. And the funny thing is they always record themselves telling the truth. So here's one here of one guy is Jewish, the other is an Israeli Jew. I want you to take a listen to him of this conversation here, and it's quite revealing, I must say. All right, so let's take a listen. It's a very short clip.
It's a kind of utopia, just the fact that the whole world will mix up with each other, that in, I don't know, 70, 80 years, there will be no white people anymore and only cappuccino-colored people.
Look, that's the only way. This is the only solution. It's my way of thinking.
Mix up,
it's our only hope, is our way out of this.
Yes.
It's going to take some time, but it's really the only way. This sort of Singaporean model where everybody's so mixed up that you really don't know who to hate because everybody's so hopelessly intertwined.
Maybe we should go out 100 people with Nazi uniforms and walk through the city. Maybe this kind of actions will just make the people remind on the time and what our grandfathers did wrong.
You hear that? So yeah, so this is, and it's not just them. Like some people may say, "Oh, you just talking about." No, I have shown you rabbi after rabbi after rabbi. They teach this. This is in their Talmud. The goal is for the entire world to get intermixed. And here you got two people up here sitting up here and saying that they're pushing this. Now you understand why every time now, when you look at these movies, you see ads and stuff, what are they pushing? They're pushing this interracial stuff. Again, I don't personally care who you pick and choose who you marry. That's your choice. But why is it so forced? Why is it that when I go to an image site to get some images, let's say for an ad, and I put in black family, I'm getting a black man with a white woman, or a white woman with a black man, or whatever? Why is it that I'm always getting that? And I'm saying a black family. I didn't say interracial. Or the other search I'll do would be the same thing. I want a black family, and then I'll get two rusty dusty football players sitting on each other's lap. I ain't asked for that. I asked for a black family. You understand what I'm saying? So now you understand there is a true mission behind this, in pushing these different groups into these areas. But in the meantime, these same individuals, they're not too cool on that in interracial stuff. Now, when you go to Israel, which I have been, you're going to find Israelis that are white. You're going to find some that are kind of tan colored, and you're going to find some that are Ethiopian that have dark skin, and they all share in that same world there. But for the most part, you're not going to find that reflected in a rabbinic. You're not going to find rabbis reflecting that. And we've already gone down that trail on how they feel about people with dark skin. We've already gone down that trail. So anyway, so I just want to bring that part out because it's quite interesting of who the people are that push them to come into this country in the first place. And the reason why this is important to bring out is because this same group of people right now are pushing people on the right and on the left and saying that Muslims are the enemy. Do you remember me saying on this platform, I've said it over and over again, I said the reason why you see these groups like the Afghani people, they were being pushed over here. Now, and then we're talking about the Somalis, and then you had it was another group too that they pushed over in recent years. They just the Ukrainians, you remember that? But it's really these Muslims they were pushing in wholesale. Now, like I said again, me personally, I ain't got no problem with Muslims like that. You know what I mean? But I say, why is there such a focus on that? And what did I tell you? I said the reason why they're doing that is because when something goes down, they can be in the face of people that can point to them and say, see, they're the problem. And ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what's going on in Minnesota right now. What we're hearing going on in Minnesota right now is that these Somalians that are there, not all of them, again, I'm not saying every last member of that community up there, but there were hundreds, I believe, of daycare centers that they created. And, you can get a little government change from that, by doing that. But the problem is they were setting up these daycare centers and the money that they were getting from the government wasn't going to the daycare centers. They were spending it all kind of places. So it was a massive fraud. And so now the same people who run the media, the same people who were the leaders in getting them over there in the first place, now they're using their media to blast everybody else in the United States and say, see, they're the problem. It's Muslims. See, I tell you, they're taking over the country. They're trying to take over the country and they're doing all this. Do you see how these people operate? You got to study this stuff, y'all. You got to study this stuff and see how these people operate. So they caused the fight. No, I'll put it in my terms. They farted in the room. They left the room. They came back and was like, who did that? That's basically what's going on. But okay, so like I said, number one, fraud is wrong across the board. So if that is the case and what they're reporting is, it sounds like it's true that the Somalian group of people in Minnesota have been engaged in that. If that is true, then absolutely that's wrong. That's wrong. Whatever the laws are, they need to be, get whatever the law says to the fullest extent. So we're all on board with that. So but you know me, I'm all about consistency. Because the same group of people that is now out here pushing and saying that we got to be angry and mad at these people and how dare they do all this fraud and all this other stuff, they're the same group of people. Well, guess what? All it takes is to have some memory and to do a little digging. You'll find that for years, this same group, they've also been engaged in massive fraud. Did you know that? I have a few articles. I'm just going to run through these articles real quick. And let me see. I'm just start here. Let's see. Hold on. Because I got a bunch of them. That's why I was like, man, I got to just run through this stuff here. Anyway, let's go. Here we go. All right, so we talked about this. We did a whole video on this recently, the housing hustle and igniting foreclosure crisis in Baltimore. I did a whole video on this just recently, talking about how a bunch of Jewish investors went to Baltimore and basically, bought up a bunch of houses on these crappy loans and all of that. And now you're going to have a lot of black people that's about to lose their homes because of what they did. And of course, they're going to walk, the people who's guilty of this. But these were Jewish investors from New York, and they did that. This is a story that just came out recently. Here's another story here. Education firms charged with stealing $2.8 million in child care funds. They were doing the same thing. The companies, which mainly serve the Orthodox Jewish community, billed the government for services that they never provided, federal prosecutors say. And as I'm bringing this up here, I'm just saying, okay, like I said again, these Somalians, what they did, that's wrong. It needs to be called out. But why is it that when this stuff happened, we didn't hear anything about it? Leader of $200 million real estate investment scam arrested for fraud, alleged schemes defrauded investors in multiple states and abroad. And these are Jews that was involved in that. Here's another one here. Mortgage welfare fraud bust in Brooklyn, Orange, and Rockland County Orthodox communities. Here's another one. This is an article. I've made reference to this one before. Now, this is a Jewish source. This is the forward.com, Jewish independent nonprofit. They did a whole article back in 2010. It's called When the Slumlords Are Us. And in this article, they acknowledge that slumlords have been are almost synonymous with Jews. Because and they talk about how blacks have been disenfranchised because of this. But we don't hear anything about this. They make movies about it and make fun of it. Orthodox Jewish sect leader arrested in LA on fraud charges. Here's another one. This was the article I was looking for, too late. Anyway, this one, Chicago rabbi charged in $22 million Ponzi scheme involving nursing homes. Now, these people are so about the bag, they'll even go on themselves. They'll either do this on themselves. And so this is one of those stories here. Here's another one. Wealthy Orthodox couples charged in $1.3 million Brooklyn benefit scam. Here's another one. Benefit fraud and tax evasion is a common practice in Stamford Hills Orthodox Jewish community, High Courts Hills. Now, I think that's over in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. They said it's standard practice. Is this another one? Orthodox Jewish rabbi sentenced to 8 years in prison for conspiring to kidnap Jewish husbands, force them to consent to religious divorces. So these people, man, listen, I'm going to say it and I'm going to keep saying it over and over again just so people know I'm not pivoting and just finding another way to dump on this group of people. But what I'm saying is I'm bringing them up because these are the same people today that are now trying to tell you to get mad at these Somalians, AKA Muslims, because they're going to tear down the whole country. But these same people were behind bringing them over in the first place, but they also have their own record of fraud as well. You understand what I'm saying? I know it's like an alphabet soup here, but that's the only way I can put it. So that's why it's important to step back and don't just jump in when you hear this stuff and then automatically you picking sides. You got to know, just go back a little bit and find out a little bit more. Okay, what's going on here? All right, so that's that with that story. I thought that was interesting. And then finally, let's look at Nigeria real quick. I should be able to pull those up real quick. So we've been hearing again about Nigeria, and oh my God, the Nigerians, they are going through what they're going through. The Nigerian Christians, they are under attack by these Muslims and all of this other stuff. And again, let's walk through the buildup on this, shall we? Very interesting. Now, go back. Now, this really started, first of all, let's establish the fact the United States has never cared about the affairs of these African nations when it comes to things like that. Let's keep that a buck, okay? That's why I showed you the map. They don't look at Africa or Africans as people. They look at the resources. They never cared about Africans like that. Let's just cut the crap, okay? They never cared like that. But you remember this all started some time ago. Had a very interesting origin. Nicki Minaj. She tweeted something on her X feed and said something to the effect about the Christians in Nigeria. Now, there have been other Black Christians in Nigeria that was posting things on there, but it wasn't until she said something that it really caught a lot of fire. Like, good fire. People were like, oh my God, that's right. We got to protect the Christians in Nigeria because they're under attack by Muslims. And it struck me as a bit odd because I was like, this is Nicki Minaj. I mean, you got people in Hollywood that tweet things like that all the time, but why is this all of a sudden catching this much fire? Like, I was seeing people, on the right that was like saying, oh yeah, the Lord will use anybody and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, y'all don't care about Black folk, period, let alone Nicki Minaj, but why is this all of a sudden important? So it was like a slow build over a few months, and I started noticing they kept talking about it. Well, fast forward, then next thing I know, she's strolling into Turning Point's conference that they just had. And then she got up there and said the same thing. And of course, they were like, that's right. We got to protect the Christians, in Nigeria. Then the next thing I know, Trump is over there dropping a bomb in the name of protecting Black Christians. And so I was like, okay, this ain't adding up. None of this they're trying to coordinate this thing real smooth. And it's funny how they even use Nicki Minaj in this to try to popularize it and try to put a Black face on it. But it's never about that. Let me pull up a couple of videos that I have on that. And now I'm going to let the locals talk about this. Let's see here. Let me pull this up here. And then we should be done, y'all. Appreciate your time and your patience. Right here. Okay, so let's start with this one here. Let's see what my brother's saying here.
Okay, Ruben, this is a very, very serious development, obviously, of American bombs falling over Nigerian territory. It will be discussed not only in Nigeria, but all over Africa. People will be discussing the implications. Every peace-loving Nigerian, and that is most of us, would like to see the terrorists and the bandits and the insurgents and all the other criminals wiped out. And since around 2009, with the beginning of the Boko Haram crisis, we had been appealing to the Western powers and the other international powers for help in order to defeat this problem. And they had been resisting, giving all kinds of reasons about human rights and all that. But in the last 2 months or so, President Donald Trump in particular. Okay.
Hold on, let me see. Hopefully there's more to it here. Better be. Okay, so maybe there isn't. Hold on, let me see. Shoot. Okay, so I'll just say this. Okay, so this was something that had been going on, as you just heard. It had been going on for a while. This had been going on for quite some time. This isn't something that just popped off. This is something that had been going on for a while. And so all of a sudden, the timing is kind of weird, right? All of a sudden, they're coming out and saying, okay, now we're going to do this. Okay, so let me pull up this other one here. This is under this video here. Okay, so this guy here, he really breaks it down. Here's another one. It's much better. Okay, here we go. Let me pull that up for you. This video is much better. There we go. All right, let's take a listen to him.
The U.S. bombardment of Sokoto is not about protecting the lives and properties of black Christians in northern Nigeria. Let's stop pretending. The ultimate aim or objective of the USA is to launch a regime change in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger in order to plunge into their natural resources, gold, uranium, and other solid mineral resources for their personal gains. There's no free lunch anywhere. If the United States of America is so keen to help Christians in Nigeria, all they need to do is to pressurize the Nigerian government to identify, investigate, arrest, and prosecute the terrorists committing genocide against the indigenous people of Nigeria, not dump bombs and disappear. America is looking for a military base in Nigeria, and sadly and tragically, Tinubu is giving them the platform to recolonize Africa. Africans, wake up. Nigeria, wake up. There is no free lunch anywhere. America does not give a damn about you as Christians. America does not have any friend. They don't have any enemy. What they have is a permanent interest. They are like chameleon. They can flip at any point in time as long as it suits their interest. Maybe Nigeria wants to find out from the Afghanistans, the Iraqis, and the Iraqis and who the third people who the Libyans. And let's add Somalia to that. America left those people in chaos to suffer alone, and that should not be Nigerians' fate.
So when we hear about what's going on over there, like in Nigeria and all of that, and like I said, they already got, United States, they already got their people in social media and all of that that's already pushing this. This is a great win for democracy. This is a great win for Christianity and all of this, and we're going to protect Christians and all of that. As black folks, we already know that the United States don't give two craps, particularly about black folks over there. They don't. They don't. So there are other reasons why, and listen, by the way, didn't Trump just some years ago, he basically called like Africa, different countries in Africa, Haiti, and it was somewhere else. He called them S-hole countries. Did he not say that? He literally said that. So now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he went from that to all of a sudden now he caring about black Christians. So like this brother just said, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. They're not coming over to rescue or to save you. They're coming over so they can strategically set up bases. They've already been saying that. You remember it was a while back there. It was a black gentleman that was he the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs or something like that? It just wasn't Powell. This is someone else, like more recent. And they had him over there. He was testifying before Congress, I believe. And they asked him point blank, what are some of the things he's doing in Africa? And he had to tell them that, yeah, they are going in there and they're manipulating governments and stuff like that because they're trying to expand America's reach throughout the continent of Africa because they've been losing out to China. China's got stuff all over the place. See, China is building things. Those hydraulic, the hydropower and all of that. A lot of that hydropower, like those dams and all of that, guess who's building that? It's not America. It's China doing all that stuff. those roads and stuff that Africans all over have been asking for. Guess who's building that? China's building that stuff. They're building a lot of the infrastructure. United States is trying to play catch up, but the way they're doing it is dropping bombs. Well, who you think is going to win that? You understand what I'm saying? So that's what's really going on. This has nothing to do with Christians. It has, and then in the area of Somaliland, it's not about giving someone independence. No, Israel got behind Somaliland, the whole idea behind that, because they wanted a dumping ground for people in Palestine. As they're bombing out the people in Gaza, they need a place to kind of save face on the global stage. So they're going to say, okay, we're going to just send all of these people down to Somalia. We'll just send them down there. That's what they're doing. And meanwhile, the locals are like, oh, okay, we're just so glad to be the left butt cheek of Israel. So anyway, enough is that. We're going to have to call this stuff out for what this is, right? And like I said, this is why it's imperative for you use the tools out there. Like, of course, we got AI and stuff like that. But just know AI is not going to give you everything. My advice to you, as I'm doing, when it comes to this whole stuff about what's going on in Somaliland, I'm going to be paying attention to that. It's not so much, hey, ChatGPT, tell me this. It'll give me an entry point. But what I've been doing, I'll go on X and I'll start following people who are on the ground, who are real people, who are actually there. And I'll start listening to them and listening to their stories. And then that helps me to get a better understanding. Because earlier today, I'll tell you, I saw an Israeli post on X, and they used this one video of this guy from Somaliland. He's holding up a flag of Israel. He's like, thank you, Israel. Thank you, Israel, for saving us and all this stuff. And they said, see, Netanyahu, he won the hearts and minds of the people of Somalia. And I was like, you fool idiot. Here's a video here of another young guy who's basically stomping on the Israeli flag. Not everybody's down with y'all. So this is why you have to be your own intelligence gatherer when it comes to these different stories like that, being in Nigeria, Somalia, or even here in the United States. It's on us to do that. We have to take that mantle ourselves. That's why we're doing the digital library as well, because now these people are bold enough to start trying to literally erase Black history. And that is what pissed me off these last few weeks. That's why we've been on this whole thing about who was really involved in the transatlantic slave trade. We've been on that. And like I said, big shout out to the Nation of Islam, because see, let me tell you this. I've said this before and I'll say it again as I'm closing it down. What they're doing, this is their tactic now, just so you understand. I would not advise, if you're going to get into a discussion with these people, do not bring up the secret relationship between Blacks and Jews. Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. Not because we don't want to get them credit. Understand that I get them credit all the time. But what these people did back then when the book came out, and they're still doing it, because they couldn't refute anything that was in that book, because all of it was their stuff, what they did was they did a whole entire character assassination of Farrakhan, of the Nation of Islam, and all of that, to where when people hear, as soon as they hear Nation of Islam, as soon as they hear Farrakhan, automatically people just start turning it off. They're like, oh, no. See, that's all anti-Semitic. That's all anti-Semitic. But you're still trying to tell them, hey, no, this is your stuff. So a lot of people, they don't like that packaging. So what I've done is said, okay, skip that. Let me still go to the book, but this time let me go to the footnotes, because they're very good with that, of that same book, and let me order and get those books myself, and then I'll present the book in its raw form so that you don't have to get over the whole Farrakhan thing. You understand what I'm saying? So I've been doing that, and when I do that, they can't answer me. I have yet to come. I can't tell you the amount of rabbis I have put this information in their faces. I'm talking about online, and they have completely ignored. And I know they've seen it. I post things on there and they get hundreds of views. I see people watching it. But these they won't say a doggone, they won't even mention it. They won't even mention it. I had this one guy, he's a pastor down in Australia. He tried to come at me or whatever. He was like, you better be careful. These are God's chosen. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm telling you what these people did, and you won't come to me with that. I said, how about you handle your business on Bondi Beach, okay, down in Australia? How about you handle that first? Because this clearly you ain't ready for this conversation. But other than that, they won't touch it. But I'm seeing people reading it. I'm seeing people sharing it. But they ain't saying nothing about it because it's their stuff. And this is why it's imperative for us to make sure that our hands are getting on books so that we can really begin to address these things, not through their filters, but through our own intellect and our own resources. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what it is. So anyway, so that's all I wanted to share for you this evening. Thank you so much as always for tuning in. Remember, only a day or so left. The biggest sale we've had at Samba Tree this year is coming to a close, up to 30% off. Okay, you guys take care. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time. Take care now.